In today's Farm Report, winter is a perfect time for livestock and crop producers to take in workshops that are being offered by the University of Minnesota Extension Service Office. Emily Wilmus with the University of Minnesota Extension shares one on managing phosphorus.
University of Minnesota Extension is offering a series of workshops on managing phosphorus on livestock farms in central Minnesota during February. We held our first workshop in Foley last week, but there is still time to attend a workshop at one of our 3 other locations. The workshops are based on information from real farm case studies conducted by Extension educator Randy Pepin on dairy and beef cattle farms in central and southeast Minnesota. Rising commercial fertilizer prices have made livestock manure an increasingly valuable asset. Livestock manure contributes nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, trace minerals, and organic matter, all for the crop's benefit. However, repeated application of manure at a rate that supplies all the nitrogen needs of corn has created some soils with elevated phosphorus levels. This has made the creation and implementation of manure management plans for many livestock farms very challenging. At this workshop, Randy Pepin will present management strategies available to Minnesota dairy farms and beef feedlots to prevent excessive buildup of soil phosphorus while maintaining profitable livestock and crop enterprises. Examples in the discussion will be dairy farms and beef feedlots. However, any livestock enterprise or person working with livestock farmers would benefit in learning about phosphorus management concepts at this workshop. Remaining workshop sites include Little Falls on February 18th at the Morrison County Government Center. To RSVP, call the Morrison County Extension Office at 320-632-0161. Cold Spring on February 20th at the American Legion. To RSVP, call the Stearns County Extension Office at 320-255-6169. And lastly, in Sauk Center on February 26th at the Sauk Center City Hall. To RSVP, call the Stearns County Extension Office at 320-255-6169. For all workshops, registration begins at 9:30 a.m. and the workshops will run from 10 to 12:15. Lunch will be provided following the workshop. There is no fee for these workshops, however, pre-registration is requested for meal planning. For further information, call me at the Stearns County Extension Office. This is Emily Wilmus with University of Minnesota Extension.
Rural agricultural producers and small business owners can now apply for Department of Agriculture resources to buy and install renewable energy systems or to make energy efficiency improvements.
We are announcing the availability of a total of $280 million that will become available under the REAP program.
The Rural Energy for America program, says Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack, is a combination of loans and grants.
$80 million of it will be in the form of grants, $2 million set aside for audits.
The focus there will be on energy upgrades and funding and financing energy-producing systems of a renewable variety.
Grants can be as low as $250,000 and can finance 25% of an energy efficiency upgrade. They can also be up to $500,000 for an energy-producing system, financing 25% of the overall project total.
And they can also be combined with loans. For USDA Radio, Susan Carter, Washington, D.C.
February is Lactose Intolerance Month. Emily Wilmus with the University of Minnesota Extension Service Office gives us an overview of the condition and some interesting facts.
Did you know that February is Lactose Intolerance Awareness Month? I would like to overview some main points about lactose intolerance with you. This information is provided by Midwest Dairy Association. Lactose is a sugar naturally found in milk and many dairy products. In order to digest lactose, the body needs lactase, an enzyme that is made by the body. Some people do not make enough lactase to break down lactose, so they may experience physical symptoms when consuming foods that contain lactose. This is often referred to as lactose intolerance. Lactose intolerance doesn't mean to have dairy intolerance or a milk allergy. And many health authorities agree that milk and other dairy foods are an important and practical source of key nutrients for all people, including those that have lactose intolerance. People who have difficulty digesting lactose can still enjoy dairy. According to an expert panel convened by the National Institutes of Health to examine lactose intolerance and health, eliminating dairy foods may not only be unnecessary to manage lactose intolerance, but also may lead to nutrient shortcomings, which may result in adverse health effects. Midwest Dairy Association offers these tips for individuals with lactose intolerance. Sip it. Start with a small amount of milk daily and increase slowly over several days or weeks to build your tolerance. Try it. Opt for lactose-free milk and dairy products. They are real milk products just without the lactose, providing the same nutrients as regular dairy foods, and they taste great. Stir it. Mix milk with other foods, such as soups and cereal. Blend with fruit or drink milk with meals. Solid foods slow digestion and allow the body more time to digest the lactose. Slice it. Top sandwiches or crackers with natural cheese such as cheddar, Colby, Monterey Jack, mozzarella, and Swiss. These cheeses are low in lactose. Lastly, spoon it. Enjoy easy-to-digest yogurt. The live and active cultures in yogurt help to digest lactose. If you have additional questions about lactose intolerance, visit www.midwestdairy.com. This is Emily Wilmus with University of Minnesota Extension.
USDA global crop projections continue to forecast year-over-year production increases in corn, wheat, and soybeans. But what does that mean to balance sheets and commodity prices? The February crop reports and supply and demand estimates issued Tuesday by the Agriculture Department gives this indication.
That's going to result in an increase in stock building across the board.
But USDA Acting Chief Economist Robert Johansson says because countries spent most of last year building up their stocks, despite the back-to-back record production years.
A lot of the countries that we would normally export to already rebuilt their stocks, and so trade numbers are actually down a little bit relative to last year, even though production is up, and that's sort of a counterintuitive result that you might not expect.
Price forecasts have varied by commodity, with wheat prices expected to be slightly lower month to month, corn prices relatively unchanged at the midpoint from the previous month, and soybean prices unchanged from last month as well. I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
Precision agriculture is important to many producers, especially when it can mean maximizing profits and cutting costs. One way to do that is by using unmanned aerial systems, also known as drones or UAVs. Rod Bain with the U.S. Department of Agriculture has more.
More farmers are turning to precision agriculture methods to assure proper and exact applications of nutrients and water in precisely the right location in the field. That in turn means more efficient use of resources, greater conservation, and improved cost savings as well. And one of the key tools to a precision ag management strategy is unmanned aerial vehicles, drones, whatever one wants to call them. But as USDA researcher Steve Thompson points out, the technology has advanced beyond the model airplane concept we might visualize.
There are multiple rotor systems. There are fixed-wing aircraft, which can cover the field a little more rapidly. Then also an interesting one, a parafoil-based one.
In addition, these UAVs are more user-friendly, many of these systems being autonomous or semi-autonomous.
The pre-programmed routes and autopilot, also stability control. There are onboard systems to make sure that these systems will stay stable in flight, regardless of ambient conditions, wind, various things.
Also advancing from a technology standpoint over these last few years, the sensors, cameras, and other data collecting tools onboard UAVs.
Remote sensing cameras, the technologies have really increased a lot, so the image resolution is much greater.
Thompson also sees farmers implementing precision ag strategies and unmanned aerial systems to develop a greater reliance on thermal imaging equipment.
These thermal imaging technologies can be used to detect areas that require more water, for instance, that are more highly stressed in the field. And the technologies, I would say just this year, have increased to the point where these cameras are miniaturized enough to be put in unmanned aerial vehicles with enough resolution to be able to see what you need to see.
And like technology in general, from a cost perspective for unmanned aerial systems,
the prices are coming down on a lot of these unmanned aerial systems. If you shop around and look carefully, you can find an unmanned aerial system that will not only take the imagery, but will give you GPS positioning for each image. And there are simple image processing methods available that can reduce these images down to something that a farmer or a consultant can use pretty readily. And I think that's one of the bottlenecks in the past. What do I do with this data? What do I do with these images?
Yet he adds that thanks to the technological advances in UAVs,
the camera technology coinciding with the proliferation of unmanned aerial systems is going to make this more and more useful.
I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C. A higher U.S. dollar overseas has meant lower export of U.S. ag goods as of late. And according to USDA Acting Chief Economist Robert Johansson,
that is true also in the meat sector.
With both month-to-month and year-to-year forecasted declines in exports of beef, pork, poultry, and turkey. The downturn in overseas demand comes at a time when livestock herds and poultry flocks are increasing.
We are finally seeing the herd rebuild starting in beef from our NASS report last month and their cattle report. That does have prospects for increasing beef production in 2015.
Meanwhile, pork producers are increasing farrowings and hog slaughter weights, and poultry production is also expected up.
We're going to increase our meat production by over 1 billion pounds this year.
And that will have the subsequent impact on prices, those estimated lower this month. One positive note, though, price-wise, steer price forecasts remain up almost 5% from last year. I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.